to order. I have 4:01. Okay, so is there a motion to approve the minutes of October 22nd, 2020?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And I don't think there are any citizens here to be heard regarding items not on the agenda. Stand up if I'm not seeing you. Okay, new business items. So, review and update on the status of the 2021 exchange programs.
Good afternoon,
Mr. Hubbard.
everyone. Before I get into this, I'd like to welcome Mr. Brewster. He is our newest board member, and he joins us for the first time today. So welcome to the board.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome. Item 21-8764, review and update of the status of the 2021 exchange programs. So I have been going back and forth with Nagano, and we've been updating pretty much bi-weekly, or every other week, rather. They've emailed me most recently, this was the 21st. They had met with Mayor Kato and the Board of Education, and both agencies are requesting a pause of any exchanges for 2021. And that would affect the student exchanges, both the young ambassadors and the high school, as well as teacher exchanges that would typically happen from our teachers in the summer and from their teacher in October. As far as the 60th anniversary, they're deferring until April before we consider what the schedule possibly might work out to be for the official delegation traveling there. We'd be well into the 61st at that point. But based on what we talked about with the board last time, the desire is to try and have an exchange as soon as is safely possible, rather than waiting for the next anniversary cycle. I get the feeling the same desire is in Nagano as well. They would love to begin as soon as we can again. So they do send their regrets that they are requesting that, but I think respectfully so, given the situation. They said that both the junior and senior high school students are preparing a video, much like our students do at the Clearwater booth when they're over there, or in the Clearwater room rather, introducing our students to the way of life in Japan, what their school day is like, and things of that nature. They said they'd love to have one from us, and that's something we can work out, I think, in response back to them. Pam and I, we can converse as far as getting the students involved. I have received communication from the parents of the students. They're just interested in what's happening. Essentially, our students that we selected for the high school exchange. I think they very much want to still be involved in some possible way. I've also sent them a few volunteer opportunities for their community service for school. So trying to keep that relationship and conversation going with them. But for the time being, requested pause in exchange. Although we don't have an official action, I imagine we could just have a discussion with the board here. I'll turn it over to you. But as far as your staff member liaison, the desire is to keep in stride with Nagano and agree to that pausing, and then keep in touch with them on the same schedule that we have been, so that we can schedule something as quickly as is safely possible.
Okay. Item 4.2, if review powers and duties as defined by city code.
Okay. The City Council has requested our advisory boards take a look periodically from time to time of the powers and duties defined by the city code. You do have a print-up of the Sister Cities Board information in your packet. And powers and duties is section 2.252. I'll read that for you. The Sister Cities Advisory Board shall make recommendations for the effective functioning of Sister Cities activities and advise the City Commission of Sister Cities program issues that might impact the expansion or development of the program.
The only thing I can recommend immediately is change city commission to city
City
council.
council, yep.
But,
Hello.
Guys, sorry.
Welcome.
did you get caught by the railroad?
The dug up part,
Huh?
where it's dug up on Myrtle?
Yeah.
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 It was interesting.
Andy, we are on item 4.2, review powers and duties as defined by city code. Mr. Hamilton, or Councilmember Hamilton, recommended updating and changing the term commission to council.
Yeah, anywhere it says commission, because I noticed in other places.
Yes.
Right.
mhm. I can work with the clerk's office.
This was established back when we were known as a city commission. So,
Yeah. All right, any further discussion on the powers and duties? Do you feel that those accurately convey what the board is intended for?
Yep.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Is that possible? So how is that recommendation made? Is that an in-person recommendation, or is there a written format?
The recommendation for, this change here? Our discussion will cover that. It provides me as staff direction to work with city staff to update those internally.
Okay, item 4.3, discuss sister cities board meeting frequency.
Okay, so within the advisory board document, it says the board shall meet at such times as the board may find necessary, but no less often than quarterly. And so I would ask the board, do you feel that the business that we have is sufficient to conduct and hold within quarterly meetings? Would you make a recommendation to potentially change that to a lesser or greater amount?
It doesn't say at least quarterly?
It does.
Oh, okay.
no less
But
often.
no less often
yeah.
than. I mean, I'll grant at this particular moment, given COVID, et cetera, and there's not a lot happening, it seems reasonable to go semi-annual, and yet then, hopefully, the vaccines are going to work against all strains, et cetera, life can get back to normal. And then as soon as we make that change, would we then be looking at wanting to go back to quarterly?
Well, I think it
So-
already says no less than quarterly, right? So,
Well, exactly. So, I mean, if, but you had said more often or less often. So,
I think quarterly minimum
as a minimum.
is important, particularly as we're exploring a new Sister Cities relationship. And there are going to be a lot of updates with, with Nagano, the current one. I would feel better about at least quarterly.
My recommendation or my suggestion is to keep it quarterly. Chris does a good job, and I think, if we need to be made aware of something, we all have emails. We can be notified of that through email, and if we feel the need, if Chris feels the need to call a special meeting more, before our next scheduled quarterly meeting, because we have something that is that pressing that needs a vote, he can do so. And that's kind of the way we are as of right now. So
Right.
it's just a matter of, as long as you keep us abreast of what's going on through email and other other communications, I think quarterly works. And then, like I said, he can, and Chris can ask us for a special meeting and coordinate a date for such meeting if it's called for, if it's necessary. And I will make that in the form of a motion if it's necessary to have a motion, because that really doesn't change
Correct.
where we are, meeting quarterly, and then,
You could just do consensus, because there's no change, or you could make a motion.
Yeah, I mean, do we have a consensus? I don't mean to run the meeting, but do we have consensus
that's-
that we don't change, that we just keep doing? Okay, there we go.
Sounds good to
we
me.
have consensus.
So, being this is my first meeting and I have no experience, But I'm anticipating I'll play an important, hopefully an important role with Bohr since Monin's headquarters started there in 1912.
Absolutely.
So as we move forward, I'm going to need help and advice. And if email is adequate or phone is fine, I can't imagine a situation where a vote would be necessary. You'll have to help me.
That's what I'm here for.
But
My understanding, I mean, interrupt it, Chris, is this board governed by Sunshine Law?
All
I
boards,
don't, but
all boards are.
this one is? Okay, have you been read in on the Sunshine Law? I mean, bottom line, if.
I have a copy of it.
Yeah, by the
I
Sunshine
didn't
Law.
retain it, but
You and I can't talk about Sister City's business, anything regarding Sister City's business, unless we're sitting right here. Of just the two of us, we can't talk. If we run into each other in a restaurant somewhere close, we can't talk about it
okay.
unless
Thank
we're
you
in a.
for,
we're
thank
in
you
a
for bringing that up.
And so we got to be careful of that. But you can converse with him all you want,
Okay.
as can any of us.
Okay.
So
That's super helpful. Thank you.
Well, also, if you want to give information to the other members, give it to Chris, and then Chris will forward it to the other
Chris can
members.
just-
I'd send it as the group.
Outstanding. Okay.
it just can't say, "I intend to vote this way," or anything like that in your correspondence. It can't say-
I'll proofread them before we send them out.
Great. Okay, that's really
Plenty to
helpful.
go along with.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion necessary to 4.3? Okay. Item 4.4, identify month for Sister Cities Advisory Board annual report presentation to council.
Annually, we'd like to keep the council abreast of what each of our advisory boards are doing, since there are a diverse number of them throughout the city. The president or the chair or vice chair typically gives that presentation. I am with you at the same time to provide any staff information or backup. Is there being that we do work on a little bit advanced schedule to get things onto the council agenda, we would be looking at the first meeting in March to get on the agenda for that, if that would work. And that would be, calendar out here. Sorry.
And it does not have to be it's not an in-depth report, especially given what the effect COVID has had on this board. Matter of fact, I don't want to put all the pressure on Chris, but Chris can basically prepare the report for you, and all
Yes.
you need to do is read it, and it'll be a very, pretty short, but it can summarize what we're working on and what we're trying to accomplish. For sure.
And it's just one person that needs to be there?
Yes.
Well, but they like the whole board.
It's fine if everybody shows up, and if everybody wants to stand in unison and unified behind as support, you're more than welcome to do that. I won't be standing down there, I'll be sitting up here.
Do the wave?
Yeah. I mean, now,
Okay.
I don't recall reading anything
When do you
last
think,
year.
Chris?
Or, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Got my wires crossed there. Mr. Bell?
I don't recall reading anything last year. Did,
Believe we had one last year.
We may not have made it, we had a number of boards that did not make a presentation last year. And
okay,
it's not uncommon for a board not to make a presentation every single year, but it's, if the board,
No, we
if the
didn't.
advisory board wants to make that presentation, they are more than welcome,
Got it.
and it's more than,
That's a good idea.
oh,
more than welcome. to do that.
It's kind of recently, in the last few years, that they've done reports. The problem was that everyone was getting the report in December, which was a big problem at the meetings. So they're trying to spread them out through the years.
And as we.
You choosing March, whatever month you want to choose.
Yeah, we have a couple new council members that are just been on for about a year, and they aren't quite as familiar with what each individual board does.
Right.
Now, they do have, each one of them has some particular boards that they're very interested in, but you know, overall, they may not have a full understanding, or, you know, this gives them a better understanding of what each individual board does, so.
Okay.
It is a welcome thing to get the report.
And I think it's what, 5 minutes max?
Yeah, it's like 5 minutes.
Very, very brief.
And I'm happy to, I mean, if you were to be the one preparing it, I'm more than happy to read it. So,
I just, my 2 cents, I just wondered, this is gonna be an annual thing that we would then do this report annually? In this
I think it's-
particular month? So my thought was maybe September or October, and coordinate it with the students doing their presentations, and then it would be a Sister Cities night. I don't know, is that too far down the road, or is that?
I can certainly get it on agenda tracking and make a note to myself in my calendars that it'll come up in
Well,
July.
we ended up not having the exchange this past summer, correct?
Right.
Correct, yeah.
So we really don't have students to make the report this year.
This year, yeah.
For future years.
But in future time, but we're not locked in, if we do March this year, we're not locked into March.
Okay,
next.
okay.
Right.
We can do it whenever Chris and we as a board feel comfortable, say, that's, you know, now we want to present it, and we can get the students there that have participated in the exchange and everything. That's a better time to do it, and when we can get the kids there, but right now, we don't have any kids to make
Right.
that
Yeah.
presentation.
Probably won't next year either.
The first meeting in March is March the 4th.
At what time?
That'd be 6 o'clock.
Yeah, it's March 4th and March 18th.
If we don't make the March 4th, it'll, you know, because of agenda tracking and whatnot, scheduling, if they can't get us on that one, I'm sure you all will be notified
Yes. Yep.
of which one it is on.
okay.
So you'll want it March this year and in future years, October?
Tentatively in October, or to be,
Well, when students are available.
yeah, when students are available, so basically to be determined based on student availability.
Yeah, I'd do it in August, before school starts, if possible.
When do your kids usually come and do the presentation to the council? Do they come in August, or do they wait
No,
till school
it's
starts?
usually been later,
Yeah, September.
but I
or
think
October.
that's more a function of when we get around to scheduling it than it is. I mean, I think you're gonna get more of the kids available if it's before school starts.
I was thinking more after school starts,
Um,
but I don't know if they get activities and stuff.
Yeah,
Okay, we'll just March this year, then next year you'll talk about it.
yeah, that's a good idea.
Chris will coordinate it based on availability of students and whatnot, so.
Any further discussion before we move to item 4.5? The election of officers.
This one's not,
You take motions for chair.
I move that Mr. Ballard be nominated and to remain in the chair. He's doing such an awesome job.
Second?
Are there any further motions or nominations, I should say?
That was the bus you heard.
Yeah, I kind of figured, I kind of knew this was coming when I saw that on the agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now, any nominations for vice chair? Right now, I believe, Ms. Benton, you're vice chair.
If Ms. Benton is willing to take the nomination, I nominate her for vice
It
chair.
is quite an onerous task.
I second that motion.
I will second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, pushing on to old business items. Item 5.1, review and update on the progress of Sister Cities discussions, and with Borges France.
all right. Well, since they have changed administrations there, there's a new international relations person that's in that seat. She and I have communicated a little bit back and forth. The last was me writing back to her saying, okay, are you interested in moving beyond the resolution that our council has adopted and get into the phase of defining the terms and the schedule of exchanges. Now that things have, continued to be difficult as far as travel and international relations go since then. And so I have not heard back from her yet, but I imagine that the interest is still there because she did reply quickly back to me the first time. So I will continue to work with her. As far as phone conversations go, the Consul General appointee for this area in Tampa Bay has been very helpful in the past, Mr. Faust. And he has served as a translator and go-between for me. And that helps a lot with the conversations of answering questions quickly back and forth as far as the defining of terms and getting a better feel for what's going on real time. And so once I hear back from them, I will schedule a time to have Mr. Faust join me in the room or by Zoom, whichever is the easiest to accomplish, and then communicate with them to advance our sister cities further along so that we can get to a point where we're defining what we're going to do.
Excellent. That's exciting.
So the woman you're speaking with,
Mhm.
is she in Bourges
Yes.
as part of the school or as part
No,
of the
she's part of the mayor's cabinet.
cabinet? Okay.
Constance Bandul. And she came on, it must have been August of last year, I believe.
Okay. Is there anything that Monin can help? Olivier's lived in Bourges. His family's been there for 200 years. Their original plant sits not far from that office. The school district is actually housed in the original Monin plant, Monin office building. So, and Olivier's son Martin is now more active in the business, and Martin is working internationally in a number of different countries. But if there's anything that the Monin family or I can reach out, it's as simple as an email to Olivier or his son to make introductions if that would be helpful, or make connections if that would be helpful.
Thank you. Greatly appreciated. Let's, you and I talk and
And I also want to make sure that the people with Monin understand that that's a two-way door. If there's anything they need from us, don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah, Olivia caught on to our CEO shared it after Chris reached out to me. Our CEO shared it with Olivia, and Olivia is, it's about time. I've been thinking we wanted to do this for a long time. So it's actually interesting how some things came together. So I'm confident that he'll be careful what we ask for. He might. I know he's very fond of the relationship that Bourges and Clearwater have. There's people back and forth all the time from both locations. So, and I know part of the reason he picked Clearwater for the factory originally was he actually owned a place on Clearwater Beach before they actually set up business here. So it's near and dear to his heart. So I know he would like to see something that he could be aware of, but also I'm sure he'd love to tell the story.
Does he still have a place out on the beach?
He sold that years ago.
When he's in town, or any of their people, their top people are in town, we'd love a chance to say hello and introduce ourselves to him. So
I'll relay that to him for sure. Yeah, he feels very bad because of COVID. He hasn't been over to. He usually visits here a couple times a year. Now with Monin having a new plant in Nevada, we'll probably only see him once here in Clearwater and once out on the West Coast. But I know he's very disappointed that he didn't get to come over and spend the good part of a week. He has an office. He's like, I think the people in the plant miss him equally as much. So, but I'll pass that on. I'm sure he'll take. He loves to meet new people and he'll take advantage of it.
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion on Borges? If not, then we'll push on to item 5.2, review and update on potential program expansion for the Nagano Sister Cities program.
All right. So because I am communicating with them quite frequently, I have been speaking with Lexi. She's an American that's over there. If you met, she's in Paige's position, if you met her from last time. And she and I are coordinating a photograph exchange right now. I've been working with public communications to get some of our photo library to share with Japan, and vice versa. They're working to send us some of their images, culturally relevant locations. This is to go towards helping me build that cultural data bank for our website. I've already done a text update of the website, just bringing it up to current date. But adding in multicultural, different things that our citizens can learn and tap into, starting with photographs, but working our way up to videos and demonstrations. There's so much more that we're seeing with people using video to communicate a lot more now, of course. But they're starting to have cooking demonstrations live on video. So there's a wealth of information that we can add for Nagano, and in the preparation for Bourges, putting that into place as well. One of the things that came up from the Clearwater Arts Alliance that I've been speaking with them recently is they have their Signal Box wrap program, and we're coordinating with Japan to have a Japanese artist design a signal box that we can produce. And then likewise over there, the street hole covers that are really prevalent are designed to all different patterns and artistic techniques. We'd like to have one of our artists design a street hole cover for them in the spirit of Sister Cities. So there's a lot more, I would say, cultural exchange happening digitally right now, and it gives us a really great way that people can interact with our sister city without leaving home for the time being, and getting them interested in participating when the time does come, that we can have some citizens go over as part of the delegation.
Okay. Item number 6, Director's Report.
I have a question. And
My apologies.
They're still, once we get past the pandemic, obviously, interested in doing the high school and middle school still, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure, because I didn't know if the high school was going to fall off again or what, so we're still there. Good.
Yeah, the school, Ichiritu, has already, they've canceled the school festival this year because it's not safe for them to do it, so it makes sense. I wanted to know, this goes back to 4.1, but, so, the middle school students from Nagano typically come in the spring. Is there a possibility that, because that would be 22, that might still happen?
Let me ask them.
All right. I didn't know if they were saying 21 and encompassing the school year, but of course, they don't really have a school year. They go year-round. So I didn't know if they were thinking calendar year, and then we might need to prep for the middle school visit.
Let me ask for clarification.
Okay.
Since I missed that, do you mind telling me what the update was on the exchange program? Because that might answer some of my questions.
So communicating back and forth with Nagano, they've requested a pause for 2021 for the middle and high school programs, as well as the teacher exchange. Now, as far as the official delegation, they are reevaluating in April because they very much want to have a delegation come over as soon as we can, rather than waiting for that 5-year cycle. But they'll reevaluate in April as conditions, or as far as looking at where conditions lie on the ground then, and then reestablish contact and look at potentially scheduling that if things do improve, hopefully. We may need to push it out again, but we will work towards that.
Okay, so officially then there's not going to be any high school, middle school exchanges
In
for-
21.
in 21?
Correct.
Okay,
That's why we're
Either way.
trying to.
either way, yeah, yeah.
I would believe, I have a hard time believing that by spring of '22, March 22, that we wouldn't be able to host.
Right.
Yeah, the pandemic should be to a degree that we can host their students coming over in the
Yeah.
spring. And we can prepare for our kids to go over in the summer of '22, so.
All right, I know I was late, so I apologize, but I do have a question about the minutes.
Oh,
And it was 4.5, and it was on the Young Ambassadors Travel Scholarship. The amount that was listed was 2 scholarships for $1,850, but the amount that the motion was 2 scholarships for $3,700 each. So that's like a lot.
I don't have a copy.
Okay,
I'll share you.
Okay.
so there was I was so unclear about what was happening with this scholarships, but that's what was asked for, so I don't know, I don't know
I have one.
I know what we asked for, but I don't know what was approved.
I see what the minutes say. My recollection is not good enough to recall off the top of my head that it was 3,700, but we can,
I'll go back through.
we'll go back and look at that and let
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
know.
Because it was 2 for 37,
Okay.
but if,
Because that's
Right.
32 two at 37, that's $7,400.
oh, I know, that's why I was a little taken back, because I was,
And I'm not sure,
37
I'm not sure we
seems
approved that much
like a
money,
lot.
but you can go back and research that and verify the number one way or the other, and then let us all know, I'm sure.
But I'll find it in the
And if
archive.
we need to make an amendment to the minutes at that point, we can.
okay.
Yeah.
I'll find it and communicate it to you.
Okay, so I really have no update from Clearwater Sister Cities. We have no programs at this point. We don't know. We were kind of looking at combining an event for in April, which would be our membership social and our annual meeting, since we had to cancel last year's annual meeting. But we're really not sure. And we did have a meeting last week.
Yeah, thank you.
We did have a meeting last week, and we were unanimous that we would not send our kids over this year. But I was waiting to hear what you all would say, but we kind of wanted to be sure we were all on the same page for that, but don't think nobody's ready.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
And,
Not yet.
Fumi said, I don't think it would be possible to get host families right now.
Right,
You know?
Right.
so, we were optimistic, but, so one other thing that our board had mentioned after our last, when we were finding about the scholarship possibly had been approved, because we were talking about restrictions, the kids in need, and that kind of restrictions that would go on the scholarship from the city. But we were wondering about like places where to find students, and about 7 years ago, one of the parks and recreation centers recommended a student to go. So we were thinking that maybe the parks and recreation, the after-school programs, that people working there might know students who might be a candidate for a program like this. And that's what we got a student from that it was recommended to us. That's back in when Felicia was here. And there was some sort of, back at that time, there was some sort of city scholarship that student got, but we were able to make her go on the trip a possibility. But again, we found her through the after-school program or some of the programs that Parks and Rec had. So that would be, I think, a good place for some of the city kids that we might find someone interested. I know that we've had the discussion, we were talking about the virtual exchanges, and the school board has contacted Yako Volpe, that's on our board, and they are talking to her directly about doing some, like, Penpal type of exchanges. They don't want to do a Zoom because there's this privacy thing, they don't want their young students on where people could film them or take their pictures or something. So they're talking about maybe a Penpal type thing, or maybe that one family could Zoom with another family, but not like the whole class.
When you say the school board is contacting her, who?
I could find out, but Yako is
Because
from Nagano.
I'm the representative of the school board.
No, the Nagano school board.
Oh, the Nagano school board, okay. gotcha.
Yako is from Nagano, and she goes back every summer, but obviously didn't last summer. And so she knows people, and so they have directly contacted her, which I think we talked about it in October. You guys had been contacted, but then she had been contacted as well. So at this point, we don't have anything going on that way, but they are trying to do some sort of pen pal type thing, exchanges with the kids.
The school board doesn't allow pen pal exchanges. Our school board, Pinellas County School Board, we would have to set it up and I would have to pitch it and get approval if students, like if I were to recruit students to do that. I think Clearwater could set something up and we could have students who participated in the program in the past or who might in the future and do it not under the auspices of Pinellas County Schools. And it wouldn't be a problem, but they're really strict about that. My teachers are not allowed to do pen pal exchanges with.
Now, are we able to, our students who didn't get to go but were supposed to go, are we able to work with their parents and let them be a pen pal?
Yeah,
It's not
absolutely. Clearwater City Council and the Sister Cities Advisory Board and Sister Cities Incorporated can do anything they want.
Okay, just
But,
as long as
yeah.
it's not
It can't be associated with Pinellas County Schools.
Right,
Okay.
right. I
Okay.
can't like recruit the kids for it through the school system or whatever, but I think we already know, kids who've participated in the past, kids, the kids who were supposed to go. I think those are our first ones to
Okay.
work with, so I don't think there's any problem there.
Okay.
Candy, can I work with you and Yako on that?
Yes,
Okay.
and they kind of wanted to speed that up. I guess their school year ends in March, and some of these are 5th and 6th graders that they wanted to get started. So I'll do an email and include you on it.
Okay.
And Stephanie Chill is helping as well,
Oh, great. Okay.
okay?
Thank you.
Oh, and one question I had, did the lanterns ever come, Chris?
The the lantern package came, but I did not get any lantern sleeves. They were taken by customs.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Oh,
So I got the insert that says, "Hey, thanks for participating in the Lantern Festival. Here's the instructions for how to use this." And it was in the bulk mailer that they usually send, and then just one envelope inside of that with the instructions.
Oh, what a
But the
shame.
actual lantern,
The lantern inserts themselves, they're black construction paper about legal size, and they were not in the package.
Okay.
and we know that customs confiscated it, for what reason?
I'm not sure.
That is nuts.
Yeah.
I know that we've had difficulty sending something that's marked as a gift over there. I've tried a couple different things as far as when we send our lanterns back. If I send them through FedEx, I have to declare what they are and the value of them. I've tried gift and $1 essentially for the paper, and that has made it through fine. So I've just implemented that again. But Lexi had written me earlier, she said that because of COVID, their international mailing had been delayed by quite a bit. And it did come through the international airmail envelope, but they couldn't track it once it had left Japan. So it did come through New York, and that's as far as we got.
Wow, what a bummer.
It was 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Actually, that is a good question. I was interested in possibly getting cards and letters from students that have participated in the past, the Sister Cities Inc., the students that have yet to go, and sending sort of a care package, if you will, over to Japan and say, you know, in the spirit of exchange and, you know, Happy New Year to you, just sending well wishes over there to them. So that's something I want to try and collect. And Candy, if we can connect on that for your membership as well. I'll reach out to the parents and the students from this time and the contacts that I have from the most recent trip as well, and see if they'd like to become involved.
Okay. Item number 7, board members to be heard. Does any board member wish to share any information or have any matter that was not yet mentioned today to be discussed prior to proceeding to adjournment?
I'd just like to welcome Michael. It's
Yay.
a pleasure meeting you and
Yeah.
seeing you, and welcome aboard. And
Appreciate
look forward to
that.
working with you.
Are there any questions or information you'd like about my background or the company or anything like that? I'll be,
Give us a little bit.
about
Just a
what?
little presentation here.
About what?
Your background and.
With
and-
Monin.
and-
Okay, so background, I grew up in northern New York, Plattsburgh, New York. I have, education-wise, I have 4 degrees. I have an associate's. I thought I wanted to be an environmental chemistry teacher. I have a 2-year degree, and then I have a 4-year degree. I went to State University of New York at Plattsburgh primarily out of necessity. My mom was ill in the mid '80s, so I stayed home to be with her until she passed. After that, I started my master's at State University of New York at Plattsburgh. I got a teaching job at Paul Smith College, with 2-year college in upstate New York. Met a girl that decided to get married and moved to Buffalo. Our first 13 years of married life were in Buffalo. We have 2 boys that are grown now. One's 30, the other's 27. I had a midlife crisis in late 2000s. It was go back to school. so I have an MBA as well. So I have an associate's, a bachelor's, a master's in chemistry, and an MBA. Not that means anything other than got to learn a lot of different perspectives. I've been in working since 1989. I started as a research chemist at an analytical lab, parlayed into an environmental engineering position, working on crazy science like removing lead, arsenic, dyes, things from wastewater. Joined the food industry in 1996. I've been manufacturing different products in food since 1996. The thing I learned probably the most working in industry is that you're a teacher all the time. so these things are very interesting to me. It's I've known Chris a short time, and I get to work in a factory every day, but I get to teach and challenge young minds. And now at this late stage of my career, it's all about developing leaders, mentoring people on soft skills so they can be successful. I do a lot of stuff with the local schools, at the college level, especially St. Petersburg College, close to the factory, help them get their mechatronics program started, put the first 10 or 12 students into that. I do stuff with the National Science Foundation for necessary skills, soft skills, whatever you want to call them. I've been with Monin for 7 years. In the 7 years I've been there, the factory in Clearwater here doubled in size, sales, necessitating the building of another factory. So we selected a site in Sparks, Nevada, for a lot of reasons. Large customer base on the West Coast, a lot of raw material supply or supply chain opportunities for us. Basically the last 2 years have been spent, 2 years ago was designing that factory, and last year it was all about starting it. So we started up with strong headwinds of 2020. We started up in January, had to shut down in March, at the end of March for when the country shut down, basically. We restarted in June and have been basically working to get that facility to steady state. And a lot of the things I learned here in Clearwater with St. Pete College, Canales Tech, USF, we're starting to build the same kind of working relations out in Nevada with Truckee Meadows Community College, Nevada State College, and the University of Nevada, which is actually right there in Reno. Because those kind of relationships are paramount for us finding the next employees. And so, you know, I told the story that way on purpose to share how I started, the bit about the education, and the tie to what I do for a professional career, but why this is of interest to me. So I appreciate you asking me, Chris. I think I'm excited about, when I hear this stuff about Nagano, like, oh, how come Borges is so far behind? But I see potential, and I see Borges as a great town or city. We have very close friends that have kids that are in school there, and they are like family to us. The Monin factory in Clearwater has a European feel to how we treat employees, and that's a positive. That's a positive. Going forward in the, you know, I don't want to overstep or overreach ever, but Monin has a really unique business model. We get to bottle sales in a country and we decide to build there. So now we went, in the short time I've been with Monin, when I joined Monin, they had a plant in France, they had one in the US, and one in Malaysia. We've added one in France, so there's 2 now. We've added one in the US, so there's 2 now. We're building one in Russia.
Oh, wow.
The China one has been built and expanded in that time frame. And we have other countries that were India and potentially Brazil at some point. So, you know, again, I don't want to overstep or overreach, but there's possibly some neat synergies that can happen because of relations that we've had to develop in those places in order to start business there. So I sit and I listen to how they started up Russia, and I'm just blown away with how different that business is than how different our business is. Yet we sell the same thing for the same uses. So that's a long story, but hopefully that.
Sounds to me like I need to buy some Monin stock. All your expansion, and my wife loves the spicy pineapple. She makes a little drink she likes with the spicy pineapple syrup.
Turns us all into mixologists, I've learned.
Oh yes, there's that.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's this I could go on forever. I find a lot of things fascinating, but when we had to shut down the end of March, Monin we're used to double-digit growth, and the company's built for rapid growth and expansion, and all the things that all the leaders of the company, no matter the discipline, we're all working on things that support growth. Well, when you go and our CEO, we had an executive meeting today, he reminded us that in April our business last year was down 90%. And he also reminded us of how we responded. You take a syrup factory and turn it into make hand sanitizer. And that's, some ways sounds easy, and other ways, since we don't deal with alcohol products, not so easy. We went into nutritional supplements for a product that is called Immunity Boost, which came out of our nervousness around COVID, right? So that's the really neat thing about Monin as a whole. And it sounds like a sales pitch, but I think it's neat to share because that mindset is good for any business or any group. So, but yeah, we're positioned to redouble right now with a new factory sitting on the West Coast.
I know the cruise industry is a huge, huge consumer of your product. And with them being shut down, that has to be, that's going to take a huge hit. So,
I mean, it's a business story that you could. I mean, we caught our core coffee customers. Their sales went up because of drive-through.
yeah.
Other parts of the business, fast casual, went down because they could only seat so many people. But when you're really spread out and really diverse, it definitely makes a difference. But I appreciate you having me here. I'm here to help, and anything I can do, don't hesitate to ask.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Okay. Is there any other matter not mentioned today to be discussed prior to proceeding to adjourn? And do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
Mike, I have visions of French students interning at your factory here. Is that something we might be able to talk about in the future?
Absolutely, no question. We've had well, not recently, but we've had one or two almost every year since I've been with the company that are over from France.
That's exciting.
And I would say that the possibility to have ones in Bourges, their factory they moved from downtown a couple of years ago now, from one they pigeonholed into a neighborhood, or the neighborhood grew around them, I guess. They moved to a 250,000 square foot facility out. They have corporate offices, innovation center. They have the manufacturing and the warehousing, but it's a really neat property, an industrial park just outside of town. But I'm sure that they would like having students. We have a number of Monin corporate
I
people.
meant even just here locally.
Yeah, so both. I'm thinking.
Okay, yeah.
I'm thinking both. I'm thinking France to Clearwater and
Right,
Clearwater.
well,
Oh,
the exchanges, that's the sister city stuff. I was talking about something separate from that.
Oh, your students at Monin?
Uh-huh.
I'm sure that there's ways to fit what they're interested in. I mean, you mentioned the Chipotle pineapple. I mean, our innovation group is always looking for, I don't want to say other hands, but people interested in culinary and beverage recipe creation. And they're always working on major projects that they actually do need support on. So I'm sure that Brian Lukmus, his name is, the VP, would be open to that. That's one for sure. I mean, I have to be a little bit sensitive in my group because I don't want them in, because I oversee the manufacturing. I don't want to put them in harm's way.
No, of course not.
But there are a number of things that your students could do that we could benefit from. And then if you had just like, I mean, I can think of, right, just off the cuff, I mean, if you have science students, I mean, there's always something that our quality assurance laboratory is working on that is science related.
We obviously do have science students and we have culinary arts students. I'm specifically interested in French students. Is there any kind of opportunity of that sort?
I'm not sure. So what would you be thinking?
I have no idea. I mean, it might be as simple as somebody who speaks French giving them a tour of your facility and showing them, that, and doing it in French. To if there was an opportunity for them to, do an actual internship of some sort,
Okay.
where they could use their French. Those were the kinds of things that were kind of going through my head, but I mean, I'm open.
We should sit down and talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be great.
No, you can't.
So I had done I know the meeting's adjourned now, which is good, but I had,
Well, but I'm not talking about something for
Oh,
the sister
separate.
cities. I'm talking about a separate internship
Oh.
between Pinellas County Schools and Monin.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's why I waited until after
Yeah.
adjournment to mention it.
I,
sorry.
so was trying to find a way to appreciate and recognize the diversity that we have in our building. And there's a lot of ways you can look at diversity, but I thought I would start by just trying to understand how many countries I had employees from.